When we consider the needs of your child, the term advocacy may appear to have a negative connotation. Whether the term advocate, support person, navigator, or parent representative, the role you play is essential in helping your child learn to be a self-advocate. The objectives for this presentation can help you as families and providers in building a strong future for the family member you love who has the disability. The following video will help bring to light the view of individuals with disabilities with regard to the important role of advocates in their lives. An advocate is someone who can offer one-to-one support for the individual with disabilities. They may give advice, raise awareness about their child's rights, or speak up for the child and represent their views, wishes, and feelings. Or they may simply provide a listening ear. So, where should you advocate? Can you think of any other places that are not listed here that you can advocate? So, when you think of these different arenas where advocacy may be needed, what are some of the various tools you might need in these different situations? In order to help your child, you need to know the facts about your child's situation, including their strengths and weaknesses, and the views of those who work firsthand with your child in schools or other places. If your child has a disability, know how it affects your child in the school system. In order to make this happen, you will want to know your rights and legal procedures. Make sure that you will have all the details. Know your school. Get to know teachers, therapists, and other personnel. Building positive relationships and contribute to the school environment. Know who the decision makers are and what motivates them. Stay informed about what's happening in your school and in the district. We as military understand that acronyms also mean we speak a different language. Oftentimes, so will special educators. Do not be afraid to ask for those definitions. Know what definitions and acronyms are commonly used. We must talk to those in our family about what we do with our children. Communication is key. For dual and single service member families, it becomes even more important for the continuity when there is a family care plan. Married couples also have to share with our partners the things we are doing so nothing is a surprise. Parents are their child's best advocate. Remember, as parents, we are our child's best advocates. We are the person most familiar with our child's strengths, abilities, and vulnerabilities. We as parents can be the most important factor in determining an effective intervention plan because we know our children best. So, how have you acted as an advocate? What are some examples where parents have advocated for their children here in the room? Professionals, where have you been advocates? I'd like you all to realize that just being here makes you an advocate. You're advocating for the rights of your children, your work, and your lives. Where will you act as an advocate in the future, looking ahead? What do you think when you hear self-advocacy? Self-advocates have made it clear that to be a self-advocate, it has become a civil rights movement for people with developmental disabilities and is about the individual being entitled to be in control of their own resources and how they are directed. It's about having the right to make life decisions without undue influence or control by others. It's about reducing the isolation of our individuals with disabilities and give them the tools and experience to take greater control over their own lives. So self-advocacy is when your child understands their strengths and weaknesses, knows what they need to succeed, and communicate to other people. The skill of self-advocacy can be broken down into a few key elements. Does your child understand their needs? This is part of their self-awareness. Does your child know what help or support will address those needs, like tutoring or classroom accommodation? Does your child understand that they can communicate their needs to teachers and others? One of the examples we have here is it okay to ask for help, and it is okay to say no? Many of our children, being military related or connected, are taught very specific guidelines and manners. You listen to adults. You act appropriately in situations. Do our children know that an adult coming up to them and telling them to do something, that they can say no if it's not an appropriate situation? That's what I worry about with my own children. So, a child who exercises self-advocacy can find solutions to challenges their parents may not be aware of. Build their self-confidence in their ability to learn. Create a sense of ownership over their learning, and develop independence and self-empowerment. The sooner our children get started, the more natural it will feel for them. Strategies that are helpful have two important components. First, we want the child to see themselves as part of their own community. This will build their self-confidence. The child, just like their parents, need and want to belong. Helping them from very early on, understanding there are others who have disabilities, helps them recognize that they aren't apart from, but are a part of their community. So, when you talk to your child about their disability, instead of feeling powerless and dependent on others, they can feel ready to take on life's challenges. The benefits also extend beyond academics. A child who can effectively self-advocate is a child who can communicate in social situations. For example, they can explain to their friends why they might need extra help at certain times, why they leave the classroom. They're not different from everybody else. They just need more help. Because of self-advocacy, it is so important. You may want to take specific steps to help your child build on that skill. Talk with our children about their strengths and weaknesses. We want to remind them that asking for help is a good thing. Praise them for speaking up when they need help. Teach our children about their legal rights and how to talk about them in a positive, constructive way. It doesn't help anyone to demand. Consider putting self-advocacy goals within our children's IEPs. Now, that's only if they have one. You can also put the tools and tricks into accommodations and modifications for communication. When a problem arises, we need to give our children the chance to solve it before stepping in, especially at the tween and teen age. We need to let our children have a say in decisions about their education. If they're able to come to their own IEP meetings and have an opinion, we need to include them, because they may not need something that we as parents believe they need because we're not there with them every day. So person-centered planning. It's a process or method that is used by some programs and school districts. However, in this section, we will discuss the strengths of the process based on the primary concept. So ladies and gentlemen, this is not a positive. We as parents turn our children into kings and queens. The day we created this presentation, I was sitting here in the morning getting my children ready for school. I made my son his typical bowl of oatmeal, and I realized that I was spoon feeding my 7-year-old. And I asked myself, what the heck are you doing? He can do this himself. So I gave him his spoon and his bowl, and I prompted him with, "Caden, take a bite." He looked at me like I was crazy. then I realized even further how important it was for him to do the things he could do for himself. Because what was I doing in doing those things for him? I was creating a barrier for when he left my side and went to school. Was he then expecting a teacher to spoon feed him his lunch? These are the things we have to ask ourselves. We need to make sure that our children are doing the things they can do for themselves in every aspect of life. So, the first step, who am I? This is the first step in person-centered planning. We're gathering information as advocates for our child. The preparations we make will help our children in the long term. We'll be able to answer questions more easily, which will then help them answer questions more easily. This can come in many different forms. One of my favorite forms is the video we saw earlier today in the IEP section, and it was the All About Me book. Now, we saw in there what were some of the things that those children liked. What were their strengths, gifts, and talents, like the little boy saying, I sing very well. So, what are their strengths? What is their story? What do they need? These are basic questions that if our children can verbally communicate, at some point they should be able to answer. Or create a book with them so they can use it in order to advocate for themselves. So, what does your child's circle of support look like? Remember, the arch exercise? Well, I don't think we did that one, so skip that. So the circle of intimacy is number one. Those are the people closest to you or closest to your child. Now, if we're creating one for our children, we're going to do this with who we believe are in these circles. But we encourage you to take the next step in taking this home and doing this with your child. Ask them, who are the people closest to you? Most likely it is going to be you as their parent, maybe their siblings, maybe their best friends, instead of being in the friendship ring. But where are we looking here? We want to make sure that our children know who are in their circles. The closer the circle, the closer that person or organization or agency is providing support for the family or the person. Two examples that we can look at are of a young person who has a person-centered plan, and the second is for a more mature family member. But what does your child's circle of support look like? Please take it home and work with them on this activity. So here is one of our favorite quotes. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Helen Keller. So every journey begins with one step. As you work on your skills, you will find yourself becoming more confident and effective. And through this process, you can make a great difference in the life of your child who has a disability. Here are additional resources that we can share with you. Please know that they're active links. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.